You dream of visiting Egypt, right? Taking that picture with a camel, seeing the pyramids up close, feeling like you're in the middle of an Indiana Jones movie. But what if I told you that real-life Egypt is nothing like what you see in the vlogs? Are you ready to find out what happens when the glamour of social media gives way to improvisation, chaos, and a few surprises that nobody tells you about? Want to go to Egypt? Go. But do yourself a favor. Watch this first, because don't say I didn't warn you later. First, it started off wrong right at the airport. Man, I never thought my trip to Egypt would start off with this kind of energy. After months of dreaming about pyramids, camels, the desert, ancient history, those vlogs full of orange filters and epic background music, the day finally arrived. My girlfriend and I decided to fit Egypt into our itinerary after Dubai. Expectations were sky high, but then the plane lands in Cairo and the vibe changes. We get off, go through duty-free, grab our bags and head straight to immigration. And then comes the first shock. The counters were empty. Empty. Like, completely. There was no one working there. No officers, no guards, nobody. Just confused tourists looking around and thinking, did we take a wrong turn? We asked a cleaning lady, kind of improvising, "Excuse me, where are the immigration officers?" She answered like it was the most normal thing in the world. They must be having coffee. And she was serious, okay? It wasn't a joke. We laughed nervously. We waited 10 minutes, 20, almost 40. Suddenly, a guy comes out of a side door with a piece of bread in one hand, a cup in the other, and a cigarette in his mouth. He walks over slowly, sits down at the immigration desk, takes a drag from his cigarette, and says, "Next." No badge, no full uniform, no rush, nothing. We looked at each other like, is this for real? We handed over our passports. The guy stamped them with a bored expression. Barely looking at us, he handed the documents back and that was it. No welcome, no instructions, nothing. It felt like we were interrupting his breakfast. But then, there's another detail. While I waited for the hotel car to arrive, my girlfriend went to the bathroom. Simple thing, she washed her hands and a bathroom attendant came over, handed her a piece of paper and said, "Tips." Yes, she wanted a tip just for handing over a piece of paper. And that was the first of many. Because, in Egypt, the impression I got was this: anyone who comes within 2 meters of you is going to ask for a tip. It could be for holding the door, pointing you in a direction, taking a photo, even for getting in your way, they'll ask for a tip. And right there, still inside the airport, it started to sink in. Either I'm on some secret reality show, or this is going to be the most chaotic trip of my life. And I'm sorry to break it to you, it was the second option. Number 2, the visual shock of trash, dust, and honking horns. We left the airport in the hotel's car, already bracing ourselves for a reality check. We got in a car and, in less than 5 minutes, I realized that the Egypt from Instagram photos wasn't quite the Egypt I was seeing out the window. The streets were chaotic, and I'm not exaggerating. The traffic was completely disorganized. Horns blaring all the time. People crossing the street outside the crosswalk like they were playing Frogger on hard mode. I saw old cars, buses falling apart, and what caught my attention the most, motorcycles with 3 people on them and no one wearing a helmet. One of them even had a baby sitting between 2 adults, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I looked outside and saw a lot of trash, like rubble, plastic bags flying around, dust rising, and some unfinished buildings full of holes, like they've been abandoned halfway through construction. One of them looked like it had been bombed. The scenery looked more like a war game than a tourist city. And then I had my first honest thought of the trip. Dude, where did I end up? I was ready for some culture shock, you know. I'm not the kind of person who travels expecting to find a perfect country, especially since I'm Brazilian, but what I saw there really caught me off guard. It was more than just a reality check. And the worst part is, despite all that mess, that was just normal. No one there seemed surprised, outraged, or even bothered. Just me, in the back seat of the car, with the look of someone who realized they'd been fooled by those cute YouTubers who only talk about the good stuff. My girlfriend looked at me with a mix of, I'm nervous, and let's not say anything so we don't attract bad vibes. And I just answered with that silent look of someone thinking, if the way to the hotel is like this, what comes next? And what if I told you it got even worse? Three, the pyramid tour, a package full of lies. We got to the hotel, tired, still processing the chaos of the city, and the front desk hit us with the classic, we have amazing tours, pyramid tour, all included. And me, still clinging to that hopeful tourist illusion, thought, well, at least now the good part is about to start. The guy went straight to the point. Transport, guide, entrance, lunch, it's all included in the package. You just pay for drinks at the restaurant. At the time, we closed the deal for about 1,200 Egyptian pounds, which was a fair price for 2 people. A whole day, all included. Deal. I was already picturing the photos, the camel, that classic outstretched arm toward the pyramid. Little did I know that this tour was going to turn into a puzzle game with a bunch of missing pieces. The next day, the guide showed up with the driver, picked us up at the hotel, and off we went. First stop, the pyramids. Amazing view, sure, but when it was time to go inside one of them, the guide drops this, so I don't have a ticket for the entrance.
Excuse me.
But you can go in there and take pictures on your own. I'll wait out here. Wait, wasn't everything included? We decided to go in anyway, since we were already there. Inside the pyramid, dark and stuffy, a local security guard shows up, super friendly, saying, "Do you want to take a picture inside the sarcophagus? It'll be cool." We thought it was weird, but he insisted. First me, then my girlfriend. He took a picture of both of us. All good. We thanked him and started to leave. And then came the phrase that became the soundtrack of the trip, tips. I pulled out about 10 pounds and handed it to him. He looked at it, made a face, and said straight up, 100 Egyptian pounds for 2 photos taken in a place we'd already paid to enter. I said no. He insisted. He started to get angry, followed us out of the pyramid, yelling. You know that feeling of a threat disguised as a demand? That was it. Until the guide showed up and spoke to him in Arabic. The guy grumbled and left. But the mood was already ruined. We headed to lunch, which was also included. We ordered 2 cans of soda. You know how much they charged? 50 pounds each. 100 pounds for 2 little cans, which cost between 3 and 5 at the market. At the time I thought, if this is included, imagine if it wasn't. Would it be doubled? We finished eating and I thought we'd finally get a break, but the guide had other plans. Now we're going to an Egyptian perfume shop. Then a papyrus shop. And a little souvenir shop, just to take a quick look. Look, it seemed like a sightseeing tour, but it was actually a tour of traps. In the shops, the prices were outrageous. The salespeople were pushing everything on us hard, and the guide was smiling. Clearly, he was getting a commission for bringing us there. We started refusing everything, and you could see in their eyes that their friendliness was already turning into irritation. We went back to the hotel, thinking that finally everything was over. But before saying goodbye, the guide says, "Oh, and here it's customary to give a good tip to the guide and the driver." Already out of patience, I handed £50 to each of them. And I went to my room with one thing certain: I will never book an all-inclusive tour in Egypt again. For harassment, disrespect, and looks that hurt. After that bizarre pyramid tour, we decided to do something more chill, like go to the mall. Air conditioning, familiar food, maybe even a cheap souvenir. We saw on Google that there was a mall nearby and thought, let's take a walk, grab something to eat, clear our heads. My girlfriend got ready, nothing out of the ordinary, okay. A short-sleeved shirt and knee-length shorts, totally normal, discreet stuff. But as soon as we walked into the mall, the vibe got heavy. All the men were staring, and it wasn't just out of curiosity. They were checking her out from head to toe, really ogling, even turning their heads. Some would stop walking just to watch, others would slow down as they passed just to stare. It was even worse inside the stores. We went into a clothing store and the salesman just stood there, staring at her openly, not even trying to hide it. We went to order a pizza, and the guy at the counter looked her up and down before answering, with that judgmental look, like she was wearing something outrageous. My girlfriend was visibly uncomfortable. She started walking faster, spoke more quietly, and at one point, she almost cried. We looked at each other and got it. It was time to get the hell out of there. We left that place feeling weighed down. It felt like she had committed a crime just for dressing the way we do every day in Brazil. On the way back, we stopped at a little shop and bought some more conservative clothes, a scarf, a long skirt, a long-sleeved shirt. Not because she wanted to, but because it was either that or keep being treated like an object on display. And the worst part is, the hotel had said it was fine, that the country welcomed tourists, that she could go out however she wanted. Lies. Because in Egypt, especially in Cairo, it's not enough to just be respectful. You have to hide yourself. And that hurts. Especially when you realize that your dream trip is starting to turn into a nightmare. Hey, do this. Send this video to that armchair activist friend of yours who's always shouting "Free Palestine," but who wouldn't last a day in a Muslim country, with everyone eyeing up his girlfriend, making dirty jokes, and even offering 2 camels for her, thinking he's being generous. 5. The mosque scam and Egypt's brute force. After the stress at the mall, we decided to do something more cultural. We saw online that there was a mosque near the hotel. The idea was just to go there, check it out, take a few discreet photos, something more low-key. We ordered a car through an app and headed out. But when we were trying to find the entrance, kind of lost, a guy on the street came up to us. Smiling, speaking English with a heavy accent, he said, looking for the mosque. "I'll take you there." At the time, I thought it was suspicious, but he seemed helpful and we were kind of lost. So we agreed. The guy took us through some little streets and brought us to a small, ugly, run-down mosque that was definitely not the one we'd seen in the photos. And then came the price, 3 times higher than normal. We paid, a bit annoyed, just to avoid trouble, but the truth is we got scammed. Once again. And the feeling was always the same. You can't walk a single block without someone trying to get something out of you. But that wasn't even the worst part. Everywhere we went, cafes, restaurants, malls, even supermarkets, there were metal detectors at the entrance. Yes, metal detectors. Like at the airport. At Starbucks. At the supermarket. At the hotel. Women had to open their bags, go through X-ray scanners. Sometimes they even searched us. And then this constant feeling of tension started to set in. You start to ask yourself, Why so many detectors? What's going on here that no one is talking about? And that's when you start to notice the tanks parked on the streets. Soldiers armed to the teeth, hard stares, a heavy atmosphere. That feeling that something could go wrong at any moment. And it's not just in my head, no. We talked to other Brazilians who were staying at our hotel. A couple told us they had gone to a restaurant near the pyramids. The place sent a car to pick them up at the hotel. Sounds perfect, right? When they got there, the restaurant started serving them a bunch of things they hadn't ordered. Coffee, sweets, dishes, juices. They said, "No, thank you," about 5 times. In the end, they got the bill for all of it. They refused to pay. They called the car to take them back. The driver put them in the car, but instead of going to the hotel, he started taking them to a strange, remote place. They started yelling, demanding that he stop the car. They jumped out and ran until they found the police. Desperate. And then you get it. It's not an exaggeration. It's not whining. There's something serious going on here. In Egypt, especially if you're alone, uninformed, or just trusting, you become a target. And you start to wonder, how many of these traps are set up every day? And how many people don't manage to escape? 6. Tourists report, the country of bribes. After everything I went through there, I started talking to other tourists. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't just happening to me. Everyone had a story, and none of them were good. A woman said she had her lapel microphone confiscated by a policewoman when she tried to visit the pyramids. Yes, a tiny microphone. She explained that she was a tourist, that the equipment was simple, but the policewoman didn't care. She said that was only allowed for film production and held on to the microphone. She would only give it back if she was paid. Yes, a bribe. And here's the thing, the woman was with a local guide. Not even that protects you. Another tourist said he already comes to Egypt prepared. He walks around with small dollar bills in his pocket just to bribe when necessary. According to him, even to use the bathroom inside a historic temple, there's a charge. There's always a guy holding soap in one hand, toilet paper in the other, just waiting for a smiling victim. And the guy even said, "I already paid to get into the temple. Now I have to pay to take a piss too." And then you start to feel something that slowly eats away at you. Tiredness, distrust, helplessness. You feel like everything there, absolutely everything, is just an act to take your money. Even what seems like kindness has a price. And just when you think it's over, there's another story. Someone said that their sister went to Egypt alone. In less than 3 days, she already wanted to leave. She wasn't physically assaulted, but she was verbally harassed the entire time. She didn't speak the language, but she could tell by the looks, the dirty smiles, the whispers. And then there was a moment that was the last straw. She made the mistake of mentioning out loud that after the trip she was going to Israel. For those who don't know, saying that in Egypt is pretty much like insulting someone's mother right to their face. After that, she locked herself in her room. She didn't want to go out anymore. She felt exposed, vulnerable, disrespected. And in the middle of all this, do you know what upsets me the most? It's seeing influencers with millions of followers selling Egypt as cheap and safe, a life-changing experience, with drone footage, epic music, and an inspiring caption. People who don't research anything, who don't even know the names of the pyramids, but post reels saying you have to come here before you die. And calling it irresponsible is an understatement, because there are a lot of people who believe them. They just go with the flow and end up getting into a mess that can turn into trauma. And right there I realized that the problem isn't just a bad cop, it's the whole system. Bribery in Egypt isn't the exception, it's the rule. It feels like everything has a secret price. And I'm not talking about shopping in stores. I'm talking about public employees, police officers, temple security, drivers, everyone expecting tips, but acting like it's an official charge. The logic is simple. If you breathe near me, you owe me money. And the craziest part is, they do it with a smile on their face, like it's just part of the culture. It's almost a way of life. After a while, it wears you down. You stop asking questions, avoid eye contact, stop filming, stop smiling, just so you don't draw attention. And that's when you understand why so many people come back from Egypt emotionally drained. It's not physical exhaustion, it's the constant tension. It's living with the feeling that at any moment, you'll be charged for something you didn't even know had a price. Seven, never go alone if you're a woman. If you're a man and already found traveling to Egypt stressful, imagine being a woman. What I saw and experienced alongside my girlfriend was enough to make one thing clear. You just can't romanticize this destination. You can't pretend it's just culture shock. Because the problem there isn't cultural, it's structural, it's daily, it's suffocating. Even wearing modest clothes, a scarf on her head, and a shirt down to her wrists, my girlfriend couldn't walk down the street without being scanned by people's eyes. Inside stores, at the mall, in restaurants, on the sidewalk, men would turn their bodies, slow down just to stare. They would undress her with their eyes, as if she were naked. And it wasn't just one or two, it was everyone, all the time. I swear. All it took was for us to stop for 2 minutes and there was already someone staring. And there I was, right next to her, holding her hand, staring back at the guys. It didn't make a difference. And then you start to understand the weight of it all. The embarrassment, the fear, the anger of being treated like some exotic object on display. My girlfriend almost cried. And we, who had planned a bunch of outings, started to avoid going out. We changed the way she dressed. Looser shirts, skirts down to the floor. Not by choice, but out of survival instinct. But even so, it didn't stop. And it wasn't just with us. Another colleague said he traveled with his wife and mother-in-law. Everything was private. Local driver, private guide, set itinerary. Even so, his wife got hit on, received jokes, and even propositions. There was a guy who said, "You're very beautiful. I'll give you 20 camels for her." They laughed. They tried to take it in stride, but the same man came back. He wanted to take a picture with her. Then he wanted to take a picture hugging her. Then he tried to get touchy. Yes, they test boundaries, and they test to see how far you'll let them go. And you know what's even more tense? Their driver, an Egyptian, wouldn't let the woman go to the bathroom alone. When she said, "I'll just be a minute," he turned to her husband and said, "Go with her." The guy asked, "Why?" And the driver replied with a calmness that only someone who's seen some ugly things can have. "Because it's better here." During the trip through the desert, the same driver avoided stopping at certain little shops. When they suggested stopping, he'd say, "Not here, it's not safe." Now imagine that same couple, but without a driver, without a guide, without any locals around. They rented a car on their own. They took the wrong road. They stopped in the wrong place. They said the wrong thing. Things can go bad, and really bad. That's why, if you're thinking about going to Egypt, especially with a woman, and even worse if she's going alone, don't go in adventure mode. Go with everything well planned, stay on your guard, have a trustworthy guide, a set itinerary, and a real sense of where you're stepping. Because over there, a woman isn't just a tourist. She becomes a target, like a piece of meat thrown to the lions. If you made it this far, comment "Real Egypt" just so I know who doesn't fall for influencer Nutella videos. And if you know someone who thinks Egypt is just pyramids and spirituality, send them this video before they go there thinking they're going to live out a movie and end up becoming a statistic.